Yeah. Can I talk about how I met you? Because that's for me kind of obvious.
I think that would be good. I was just thinking about that beforehand, and it's also you could include this screaming under the bridge.
Yeah.
Because that came to mind. I walked in here and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God, remember the screaming? Anyways, but
did you hear us screaming or something?
yeah, as I drove off, because it was warm, it was like all the windows were down, and like I was ready, almost turning the bend, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I remember walking with Martijn to the venue from the train or something. And I think we were reading some graffiti somewhere, and I think it said, "I am not afraid" in Dutch.
Don't be afraid.
And then we both, yes, don't be afraid. And then we both said, "Ik ben niet bang," which is "I'm not afraid" in Dutch. And turned out I was extremely scared in the end. And that's I'm just gonna kind of roll into the conversation. It seems like a nice entry point.
Absolutely.
And then you picked us up. Yeah. And I think maybe I sent an email or something. Can somebody pick us up? And then I guess Rini asked you to pick us up.
No, I think it was actually even better. It was a coincidence, because I was on my way to the flower store, and then I saw the whole of you kind of wandering aimlessly.
Yeah.
These guys look like they might be going where I'm going. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you had a station card. That's my memory, or is that imagination?
Yeah, I did. I had a big, I don't know, a big Volvo rental or something. Yeah.
And then you said something like, "Are you guys going to the retreat or something?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then you turned out to be really helping me through super difficult stuff, because it was my first ayahuasca experience, and I was really not experienced with this kind of stuff anyway. I have not got the easiest mind, although who can compare? But I mean, you can compare a little bit, and I don't have the easiest mind. And I remember you being there, and really loving your care and energy. And and there was even one moment of telepathy. I would call it telepathy. You were sitting next to me and I saw a giraffe, and then you said, that is, what was a giraffe meaning to you? There was something about it?
My former Indonesian boat crew called me Jarapa, which is Indonesian for giraffe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now, I mean, this podcast is not about me, but now I have a big giraffe tattoo, and giraffe is, of course, everything about NVC, and so that's really cool. So I want to officially welcome you to the podcast, and I'm so happy that we get to talk. And I'm inviting my friends, my teachers, and my heroes, and you are all three of them. And then for people that don't know, you are Susanna Hinderks. And how would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I'm, I guess, here in my capacity as a bit of a psychonaut, since you just explained how we first met. I'm also a photographer. I'm also a coach and a yoga therapist, and now I run psilocybin retreats in the Netherlands.
Mm. Yeah. And you seem to have such a depth of experience to bring to the people that you guide. So I can personally attest, and that was 10 years ago. So I can't even imagine how much you have, even more integrated, and to use a modern word, upskilled. But and then one of the things I saw, and I think I knew, but kind of came back when I was reading your bio on one of your websites, which is in the description, but that you were a diving instructor for people in Asia. And it struck me as, that's such a cool resonance with the psychedelic journey. And I'm curious, maybe to kind of sharpen the question for you, is there anything that you think that you bring from that life as a dive instructor that now helps you as another kind of dive instructor, perhaps?
Big time. Yeah. And thank you for seeing that, because I always have to point that out. I think I lived in Southeast Asia for 11 years. And I was a diving instructor for parts of those years, but then also I became an underwater photographer, and I had a lab on a liveaboard dive boat. We would do 11-day trips out to a marine national park and come back, and I would be processing film with chemicals. It's unimaginable now. But yeah, it was the bringing people into another world. I think having a very, very adventurous spirit from an early age on. I think that was really what got me there. And it was, I think, my first time underwater with scuba gear was like a total light bulb moment, because it felt like, oh my God, I'm home. And I think the same happened when I had my first ayahuasca experience, actually. It's like, oh, yes, there it is again. The feeling of, oh, this works for me. This is right. I know this. And I think the years of a diving instructor, of course, is you're shouldering a lot of responsibility, especially if you take beginners. You have like 8-10 people in a group. They're all varying stages of nervous, and then I'm the one kind of to be the calm guide and make sure everybody comes back in one piece. So I think I learned that there. I learned that shouldering responsibility is something I can do, and that on the other hand, also like the pure joy of having somebody go from never stuck their head underwater to wow, seeing this fantastic marine life. It's just lovely. And I think the same I feel, or very similarly, I feel when people come and trust me enough to bring them into a psychedelic journey and make sure that everything on the outside that I can do and hold is in good order. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, I just kind of can't get over the poetic
Yeah.
resonance in those experiences. It's just amazing.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to go a little bit from the liquid into the juice, I'm being a bit poetic myself here now, but uh, just to kind of, it's also cool to talk about psychedelic experiences. And so, one kind of obvious question I don't want to shy away from is, yeah, what is just the most insane or life-changing psychedelic experience? I mean, you probably had many, but what is one that comes to mind when I ask that question
Oh my God, so
that you can
many.
share?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, so many. I think it almost feels like if I pick out one, then I'm cheating on the other substances or fungi or plants. I think iboga has probably packs the biggest punch. Uh, it brings me the most clarity, and it has maybe also, if you want to attest wisdom to a plant, it probably has that. So I think the when you asked that question, and I didn't know the question beforehand, I was like, yeah, so that comes to mind. It was also a very difficult one, but there's also another one that comes to mind, and it was my very, very first ayahuasca experience. I had flown to Peru. I was in the middle of the jungle, and there was shamans and everything. It was quite foreign to me at that time. I had a lot of prior experience with other substances, but not with ayahuasca, and I was terribly nervous, and the effect kicked in. And there was kind of like the vision of a dragon shredding me into a million pieces. And then my first thought went to my fantastic therapist at the time. And I thought, oh, thank God, I'm having such a good therapist that prepared me. But also, despite it being such an intense moment, that I still thought, this feels like a very kind of familiar state of being home. I could sense that this would be quite a turning point in my life. But yeah,
Mm. And what made it intense? I mean, you saw a dragon tearing you apart, but I guess you knew that it was,
yeah.
or did you know that that was not actually
No,
happening?
I
Or
think yeah, I did know, but it was kind of the mixture between the feeling totally at home and totally freaked out, and at the same time knowing, sort of having an inherent knowing of saying this is something I was looking for. There was a time when I was very, very small, when my mom would take me to bed. I would always say, I want to go home, and she was of course quite frazzled, like, but you are home. And I thought, doesn't quite get what I mean. I was maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 or something. And that when this initial kind of monumental, very intense moment subsided, I thought, and then I sort of sank into this is home. This is what I tried to describe at a very, very early age. And I think that what that home represented was a certain quality of connection, and that in that intense moment, I felt like, okay, that was sort of the missing piece of the connection I maybe didn't get in a very adequate way from an early age with being raised the way I was raised, and sort of finding it then. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I really recognize that that sense of super deep self connections. I remember from several ayahuasca retreats that what was standing out to me in retrospect, or like in the weeks or months after, I could just feel myself much better. That's such a thing. And I want to touch on something you just said, because you said, or you kind of asked, can we ascribe wisdom to the plant? And that's actually one of my curiosities, because you can relate very differently. Like, is it a molecule? Is it a scientific experiment? Or is it a spirit? And how do you relate to those plants, whatever you want to call them? And has it changed over the years?
Yeah, I think it has changed over the years. I think I love science. I'm still somewhat careful in that department. On the other hand, I'm also someone who thinks in images. So it's like it comes very naturally to attribute anything life and kind of a character. So
Hmm.
sort of my way of thinking and speaking, the assigning the plants or the fungi or something an individual spirit is sort of, it comes natural to that. But I'm also wanting to not kind of blow that door open too widely, because it's I think I started to have sort of a feeling is like, who am I if I let myself be that person? In
Mhm.
my earlier ayahuasca years, then I met Iboga, and then I was like, okay, this is even more convincing. So I would say, yeah, could be, but I would not set it in stone, despite having had so many experiences where it totally feels like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes it just really feels like, okay, this is a spirit being, obviously in the moment. But then there's also some fear of, oh yeah, but what if I really let myself go? Is it that you want to not fool yourself ultimately, or is it something maybe deeper or
Yeah, I think
different?
it's also now that I'm on the kind of end of guiding people, I don't want to kind of give a framework that people feel they have to adhere to. I think that's a big part. I think as in do these substances have independent spirits? It could go for, I don't know, a birch versus an oak tree. I could also make that case, or yeah. So in that way, I could probably be on board. Yeah, absolutely. I think
Mm. Yeah.
there's an energy element. Like when I don't know, when people ask me between the difference of mushrooms or psilocybin and ayahuasca, let's say, for me there's a directionality that the truffles I serve are grown underground, so that I feel that in the experience it is a more grounding, it is a more earthy kind of a sensation during the journey. Often, not, of course, you can't generalize that either. And when I drink ayahuasca, it's like the directionality is more upwards. That's just a sense, and I don't think I want to make that into like a philosophy or not, since
Yeah.
ultimately,
Yeah.
what do I know?
Hmm. Yeah. I really like that. I really like the art of not getting to conclusions when you don't have to, because when is a conclusion really necessary,
Not
right? So
really, and
yeah, I
especially
enjoy
when it
that.
comes to experiences that are that kind of huge. It's like there's already the pull towards jumping to conclusions is already such an allure for so many ways, that I feel it's quite important um to say yes, I can relate. However, doesn't
Mm.
mean we have to decide ultimately.
Yeah. I really like that way of framing. I can relate to that perspective, and I don't have to kind of own that or something. Um, Is it true that you just came from facilitating a retreat? And can you say a little bit about it? I'm imagining you're maybe still buzzing or kind of maybe like half crashing after all the space holding, or how are you now and how
It
was it?
was really lovely. It was actually we had two pretty much back to back, very different type of groups, but yeah, really nice people. It's such rewarding work. The last one I just returned home from, it was in the sense that of course there's a huge element that is the group, and in that instance, the group was already so trusting towards each other that there was a lot of stuff that I usually have to kind of do to make the group fuse together. They kind of did that on their own. So in one way, it was quite easy. And of course, it's also it's tiring work in the sense of I give a lot of myself. I love it, and I think I told someone there as well. It's just because I love doing what I'm doing doesn't mean it's not still exhausting. And yeah, so I am quite tired, but I'm also it's like okay, one down again, nice. I'm driven by curiosity, so to and since we have two calls to prepare the participant, and then individual talks at the venue, and then the journeys, and then they come home, and integration calls. So I think I have a relatively good understanding of who these people are. So to have them actually arrive at the venue, and then you feed the truffles, and then you see what happens. It's fantastic to kind of be a part of their journeys. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And is there, when you have a workshop or how you call it, ceremony coming up, a retreat, is there anything that you kind of tend to look forward to? And is there anything that you tend to not look forward to so much about such events?
Journey days are my favorite days in the sense of that I think I thrive when I can sort of have an overview and be in 5 different places at the same time, sort of thing. I also quite like when there's a lot of emotion in the room and a lot of expression and laughing and crying and all at the same time. I do tend to love that. Um Yeah, so that is my favorite day. On the other hand, we also have some preparation exercises, and there's a bit of like embodiment work and sharings and just sort of associations with images sometimes to people to maybe well, everybody has some kind of intention, or most people come with an intention, so that they can really view their intention via different mediums, via what does my body say to that, and how do I relate if I associate my intention with an image or something like that. We did
Mm.
clay work. We everybody made like we give people a little bit of time to roam around the premises and then collect feathers and little rocks and something, and then everybody can make a little ceremonial object out of clay. So that's just fun to connect to a sense that is so underutilized. No, that so then saying,
Mm.
oh, I haven't like made anything with clay since 1978 or something like that. That's also
Yeah,
nice to be
that's super cool.
creative
Yeah.
without an outcome, without it has to fit a specific uh, objective. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
super cool. I just so happened to have done a pottery workshop last week, which is
Amazing.
amazing. It's so cool. Yeah, I love that you do that. It's just one of the best things to
Yeah,
do
I
ever.
love it.
And you kind of two things I want to ask you about. One is intention, and one is the body, because those are some questions that I have, and you were just mentioning some of that. So it's kind of a known thing that for a good psychedelic experience, intention is super important. It's maybe the most important part of your preparation, I would say. But in the beginning of my journey, you know, life, I actually didn't really know what an intention was and how to craft one. I have a bit more of a sense now because, just for me, from coming from more NVC now, nonviolent communication, I find needs or qualities that I want to embody. I find those really you can almost say virtues if you like that language, which I do. But I'm curious, how do you relate to it, and how would you even advise people to go about finding their intention?
Yeah, I think it's funny that you say that, because I don't know a lot about NVC, but it is a little bit like that. I ask people if they can sense into what would they like to be different after the retreat, or what are they hoping to feel like, so that it's rather than a kind of a to-do list, I must do this or not do this anymore, to make it more about a felt sense. I think that for me, at least, this is quite helpful, because I think intentions that are only formed by the mind is also like, who's doing the talking, right? Is it
Yeah.
or I'm sort of in this self-optimizing, must eat healthy or must do this in this kind of a space, or is it really more of like a longing of the innermost you that says, there could be something could be better. And I think so yes, in that way, I think the intention is important, but it's also important not to be too rigid around the intention, so that the the magic, if you want, but that there's also space to appreciate the subtle differences that might show themselves. So if you're totally tunnel vision onto one specific intention, then what else is there? So by asking people of how would you like to feel, or what would be different, or how, I don't know, would your partner know that something happened when you return? It's more like you really have to sense into your body as well. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, what I'm getting is that is more directionality of attitude
Yeah.
type stuff than
Ex-
outcome type stuff that would be a good intention or a useful intention or connecting
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the exactly. I think for me the outcome based, it well, first of all, it doesn't work for me so much. I'm not, anyone who knows me, I'm not terribly ambitious or goal oriented by nature. Whatever, I could use some more of that, but I also think that in a world where there's like so many demands, and whether it's to be a good parent, or to find the life purpose, or the right job, or the perfect partner, all that, it's like there's already such a load on us to actually give a little bit of space to what does our spirit, or our soul, or whatever you want to call it, just our innermost being, without these demands and the pressure and this, to let people be. I think that's a big feature of how I run my workshops, is to one is to also include the participant in the responsibility, meaning make people aware that yes, it is your intention, it is also your life. There's also, you are the expert of your life to a huge degree. And what are you seeking me or us out for? And by I think being a little bit more free, and yeah, allowing for just some life to come back in, which is often that's enough to kind of initiate change, that you can then sort of walking the walk after an experience like that. That's a whole another story. Then of course that takes work and diligence and some determination. But for the preparing for the journey, I think there should be room for really allowing for life and joy, and
Mm.
not only I would like to fix my jealous
Yeah.
streak, or whatever it might be that you want to work on.
Hmm. Then I guess the follow-up question that comes up in me is, um, how do you connect with your intention when you are giving a retreat or ceremony? And is there kind of a recurring, almost like a foundational intention that you have in your work?
I think being really present is the one key element. Being really, I think one of the major things is being really non-judgmental towards the person as they will feel it. I think I could only have said yes to, I would when I decided to do this kind of work on that end of the aisle, I think I had to be very clear that certain things within myself needed to be totally clarified. And it is like, if I'm doing this even to 1% for my own, whatever that might be, then it's not time, and to really receive the people as they are. So that's, I think, the quality I always have to go into it. Yeah. And that's not a given. So
Yeah, because I can imagine that there you get a lot out of it as well, which is totally fine, right? It's so beautiful, but how do you then distinguish between just the joy of giving and that being automatically reciprocal versus, oh, I'm just doing this for me? How do you notice that difference?
yeah, that's, I think, well, it's a little bit built into the job that it's also just hard work. I mean, I'd be lying to say that it's the joy of receiving something. I think the being very clear on when people project things onto you, to not take that, or
Yeah,
to kind of let it come in and exit right away. I think that's one thing that's quite important. I think it's making it a habit of noticing these subtle differences and saying, okay, if any
yeah.
such thought comes, okay, I remember, no, that not belong here.
Mhm.
And of course, I mean, that's nobody's perfect, but an overall atmosphere of there being no gurudom whatsoever. No, I have the answers, and the participants, I absolutely not. That is, I think, what I'm as a participant, what I would be highly allergic to myself. I have a good bullshit radar, so I sniff it out, and I don't want any of it. And then to learn from really, really good people who have done this for a lot longer, seeing, okay, yes, this is, you can see a difference of being in a well-run ceremony, and then in one where, people are just very
Yeah,
full of themselves, and you can
yeah,
you can see that this is also done to elevate whatever. Yeah, I try not to do that at all.
yeah. So it takes a lot of awareness of your, I'm not, and I don't know your psyche, but I know my own. I know there's some shadow stuff there, which is, of
Yeah.
course, in everybody, which is fine. But I guess what you're saying is then, yeah, know your shadow stuff and have a kind of way of working with it so that it doesn't take you over. Because that's, of course, what happens. It is shadow stuff in guru type people that gets
Yes,
taken
exactly.
over.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's also, of course, I mean, I have hundreds of my own journeys under my belt, and 7, 8 years of psychotherapy. So I think, to have learned not only from really fabulous people that run ceremonies, and also the not so good ones, and then doing my own work, and really also knowing what it's like to be on a mattress and being confronted with stuff, and wrestling and negotiating and resisting and all that kind of stuff. Of course, that's part of the deal, and I think that's also why I took my time. I mean, my first psilocybin trip is 37 years ago, so
Yeah,
to really wait and say, can I wholeheartedly say, I'm not doing this to inflate my ego? And I think that it pays off now. I can see that both the people that I'm working with as co-facilitators, as well as my team members that are, even though I have several team members that started on the mattress, and they're now kitchen hands, cooks, or assistants, that I think to find a good balance of what that looks like.
yeah, yeah. That's an extremely important question, and one of the things I've been thinking about. I was actually thinking about my meditation teacher, Michael Taft, who I now following. I'm following the 5th course with him. I really like him. And one of the things I find so inspiring, and it is a bit random maybe, but I'm coming to a point, but he seems so egoless. It's confronting to see that, because I see, oh wait, I'm not that egoless at all myself. But the point I was trying to make is that it's actually such an I think you said it as well, such a responsibility, because he's a meditation teacher to extremely advanced level. You are a psychedelic facilitator. You are in charge of safeguarding and space holding. Of course, like you said, please people, take your responsibility. That'll make it safer for everybody, right? But then you still have, of course, an enormous responsibility. And I really like how seriously you take that. And then something else I want to just shift, because I said that there's two things that come up. So the kind of the intention thing, and then also the body thing. And so you are a somatic coach. You're a therapeutic
Yeah.
yoga or yogic therapy teacher or therapist. And so I'm curious. I mean, it's a big question, but how do you integrate the body in your work, and how do you work with your own body in your work? I guess that's my
Yeah,
two-part
that's a
question.
fine question. I think the what we do in terms of the preparation for the work, there's some embodiment exercises that also kind of in a very, very small and playful way teach people that it's not not that the mind governs the body, but it's also that the body clearly very strongly informs our mental well-being, in that by bringing it in a playful way, people can learn something about themselves, and in that way come into the journey. Because a lot of the psychedelic experience is very, very physical, as you know. That
Mm.
there's a lot of emotional stuff is carried by the body, and to kind of work that out. My psychedelic experiences are very. I don't. I let's say I depressurize my system by the ways of sound, and by wrestling, and by twisting and turning and grunting and digging into the mattress, kind of thing. So I think to invite that, and to also let people maybe know in the preparation talk that this can come in so many shapes and forms, that whether, I don't know, maybe I process grief through grunting, and maybe somebody else, for them it's tears, and somebody else it's vomiting, or God knows what. That the body is definitely a huge carrier of our stuff, and a huge blessing to also to deal with it, and to
Mm.
include into these although it's called mind blowing, but it's also like a real visceral, it could be
Yeah,
very pleasurable, could be very frightening, could be all kinds, but that also definitely includes the body. Yeah.
body
Yes.
blowing. I don't know. That shouldn't be a word,
Probably not.
probably. Mm. Yeah, one thing that is kind of semi somatic and also semi mind, whatever, is that I remember so specifically, and I think it was the first weekend that I ever did
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Rini and the gang, including you. There was such a specifically feminine feeling in my body. It made me feel like wanting to make some movements, but it was so undeniably feminine. Um, and I wanted to ask a question about that. And I want to kind of preface the question with saying, you are living this lifetime
Yeah.
in a female body. I don't want to pin you down with the
Mhm.
label woman or female. I
Mhm.
don't like that. I
Mhm.
facilitate a men's group, but if somebody starts calling me a man too much, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
don't do that. Still, you are in a woman's body, and I'm curious. However, you want to reflect to the question, maybe about feminine and masculine energies, or just men and women, and maybe even something around sexuality. But it must be a specific way for you to be a woman in this world, or to have received works or works from women and men. I'm just curious, is this even a theme for you, and how do you relate to that at all? Does that question
Yeah,
make sense,
no,
or is
it's
it too broad?
it's a wonderful question, because I was fortunate enough to facilitate some women's retreats, and there was a significant difference in what does come up among women and how much faster certain very deep themes are raised, how strong connections can be formed. I think it was like four women's retreats in total. So in that way, I love working with women. If I am running a mixed group, however, I do feel it is reasonably important that there is a balance in terms of men and women in the staff. Now, luckily, I have my wonderful husband as my co-host. So he brings a lot of the manly with the voice and all. So I think that makes us a good team out of the gate. We have recently started to separate men and women in the circle. In the beginning, I thought that's not necessary, also because we had so much smaller groups and a lot more preparation time as in the circles I usually go to, that I thought, is this really necessary? And it actually, I found it does make a difference. I happen to love men. I find I often consider myself one of the guys in many ways, or at least my whole life it's been like that. Maybe now in menopause I'm appreciating my own tribe more. I'm also partnered up with a fantastic American woman named Courtney that we're running other more specialized retreats as well. And to have like a female, really strong, intelligent partner to kind of hold this and kind of have men assisting us, that is also quite nice, I have to say. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that just comes up for me is that, one thing is transference can, of course, happen very easily in these states, projection or kind of energetic attachment. I've entered into a relationship with somebody right kind of following a retreat. I'm not sure if it's fine. It didn't end up working, but you are in a very suggestible place. I also remember one experience where I felt deep arousal for a woman because we were there, and probably because everybody's super open. So I'm really it's so important to be careful with that. Not in a way to restrict life from happening, but just almost from protecting people from themselves. Have you ever had any experiences in that regard, either as facilitator or participant or whatever, that were maybe very beautiful, or maybe something where maybe I think of Norberto and Millie,
I think being somewhat hands-on in this kind of work. I mean, I'm not totally opposed to touch while facilitating. That can be a bit of a fine line. That you're kind of on the floor, hanging there, and then the next thing you know, there might be a hand moving somewhere where you don't want it. I have experienced that. It's of course. How do you position yourself within that to kind of detach and make it clear this is not okay? On the other hand, that person is also going through something very, very deep, and that might have to do with who knows. So we can't know in that moment to detach without creating any kind of hurt around rejection and stuff like that. So I think it's we as facilitators or assistants have to protect ourselves quite well. I think also in an energetic way of how do we approach someone. I think that's quite important. I think in the smaller groups I run, I think there's I don't think I've had that. I think maybe there's like someone took a shine from afar. Yes. I don't think what do I know? But I don't think anything has happened. I have met my husband that way. It was during ceremony. So I think if that kind of that impulse of there's a real heart connection here, now let's kind of not go home and not follow up on this. I think that I would have regretted deeply, because it's best husband I could have ever found. So I think it's to have a good amount of discernment. When is it projection? When is it we're all open, anything goes, yeah, we're celebrating life, and then it's infatuation, and to be careful, for sure. And of course I've seen plenty of relationships that formed in retreats like that, and they didn't survive, and some have for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't also mean that a flower that only grows 2 days is not as good as a flower that
Well,
grows
I
for
was
10
gonna say,
years. So
quite honestly, why not follow something that isn't made for eternity? I have zero judgment around that, of course. Yeah.
yeah, 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 and it just comes to me as kind of an explanatory note. I'm curious if you agree or have similar or different view, but at least looking at myself, but I think just as a human, if I'm in a very scared place, then sexuality somehow becomes even
Mhm.
more attractive, right? Or when I'm faced, even actually, it's a normal thing in probably a bit more for men, but whatever. In meditation retreats, to have very vivid
Mhm.
sexual imaginations,
Mhm.
because your mind just goes there, because it's a super strong distraction away from looking at yourself.
Yeah.
I see you nodding. So yeah, do you have any words
Yeah,
to say about
I
it?
think that makes sense, and I think that whatever, then it's exactly for me what you say. It's a way away from yourself, and I think maybe I could see in meditation retreats that even being worse in a way, because it's psychedelic experiences. They meander and go up and down, so you might be able to change the channel a bit faster in a psychedelic retreat, unless it becomes like a real obsessing. Oh, this is, and then you can get roped into something this is slightly unhealthy. I think it's to also prime for me. It's to make people aware of that, and that's also where the individual talks beforehand are quite important, to see what is their kind of built-in reaction. Is it like a backwards movement? Is it a checking out? Is it disassociating? Is it confronting? Like, what is the energy there? And to
Hmm.
and I get surprised, of course, sometimes as well, but to get a little bit more aware of where is it maybe someone where I can sense in what they say and how they are, to that translating to the psychedelic journey, where maybe disassociation is one way, or a sort of latching onto another person, and that can of course be sexual. It doesn't have to be. It can be a general, like, over empathizing with somebody else's process, or like really want to meddle, or
Hmm.
the helper syndrome, that it can be also expressed as
Yeah.
that. um I think since I've been with Clint for so long, it's like it hasn't happened to me uh in that way, in ceremony, because he's mostly there, and then and then I know he's coming home with me.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, but it is a way to not be with this in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's very interesting. And how lovely that you get to do a lot of
Yeah.
this work with Clint, I
Yes.
imagine.
A real
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
This
you.
is such a great. Also, we complement each other very well in that way. I think that's really lovely.
I'm just looking at my questions. There's one question that I want to ask you, which is a little bit different. And we did check a chat about it a little bit before, which is, I guess the most scary thing that could happen, although it's super rare, I believe. But some people do end up in a psychosis, whether periodically or for a very long time, or stuff like that. Now, it is the kind of common wisdom to dissuade people more or less from doing psychedelics when they have a tendency or when there's something in their family. about psychosis, stuff like that. I have, or I used to know somebody. She was, she did have psychoses. She did also work with ayahuasca after that. She had a very good experience. I'm curious, is it always ill-advised to do this kind of work when you have such history, medical history, or are there maybe reasons why you can do it? What is your experience or wisdom in
Yeah,
that?
I mean, we do have it in our screening that basically we kind of have to screen those people with like psychosis, schizophrenia, or for safety reasons to err on the side of caution. Just because it's also, of course, that in a retreat setting, we're not really equipped. I'm not a clinical psychologist. There's no physicians or psychiatrists present. I think there is an increased risk. It would still maybe make something like psilocybin reasonably safe, but then it's the question: is it worth that risk? My personal opinion, I think I also do know people who have worked with plants with either their own history of severe mental health issues or psychosis or something in the near family. But I think then that would have to be like very, very carefully investigated on a case-to-case basis. For me now, I do just for the safety of that person and the group, of course. Also that if something were to happen like that along those lines, it's also the group has to then carry it. So the risk is never zero. And then of course it would depend how long does it persist. I do know cases where it's been 15 years and they still struggle. So that risk, I think, is something that shouldn't be swept under the rug. On the other hand, I also know that psilocybin is a relatively safe substance, and that if you enter a, let's say, drug-induced psychosis, that doesn't mean you're not well a couple of weeks later. But there needs to be continued discussions around it. But maybe I'm not the one equipped to take on that burden or that risk of someone with like serious psychosis in the close family member. Yeah.
Yeah, understood. It's easy to be kind of black and white either way, right? And I guess the real art is to just, as you said earlier, use discernment and just like take it step by step. You also mentioned, or I've seen you on your website, for instance, that you also kind of follow
Hmm.
the science or
Hmm.
are interested in the science around psychedelics. I'm curious, with your experience and your interest, is there anything that you would say science still needs to learn a bit better from ceremony, or does ceremony need to learn a bit more from science? How do you relate to that?
That's a good question, because I was like super into the science. I think it was they had a big conference in Basel for Albert Hoffmann's 100th birthday, which he didn't show up anymore for, but the prior conference 2 years earlier, I went to, and I was totally blown away by the science, because it was quite new, or at least new in the sense of accessible to the public, like me, ordinary party psychonaut type person. Uh, so I really followed a lot of that with great interest. And then I think when I started to find my own sort of ceremonial spaces, and then I kept going to all these conferences, and it was still inspiring. And I'm a huge fan of I think it needed the scrutiny of science to make that whole subject matter more accessible to a broader audience, to make it more public, to apply the rigor and all that. I love that. And having said that, there's also, now that I'm older and I go to some of the conferences, and then the speakers are 26, and I'm like, all right, how many
Mhm.
how many times have you hung over a bucket? And and how many, I don't
Yeah.
know, like true deep spiritual meaningful experiences have you had? So that there's a little bit of a, feels like the pendulum for me swung a little bit too far to the one side. I'm for my own personal practices, I think I'm a little bit more interested in the spiritual aspect. I've just started founding an Umbanda practice group where it's really also learning what is this about, like of course, and then with the work I've done with Iboga, the Bwiti, and what's also the anthropology behind that. So I think the science is really, really crucial, and I'm extremely happy it's there. However, there is also a lot to learn from wisdom traditions and from whatever also really, really sort of speaks to you for varying reasons. And there's also, of course, a case to be made to ingest this just for fun or out of philosophical curiosity, or you don't have to be depressed to go on a journey. You can be I don't know, just thinking what else is out there. So I think to normalize also that this could be a fantastic way to connect, to spark creativity, to yeah. There's so many uses for these wonderful substances.
Yeah. Yeah. Somehow what comes to me when you speak about that it's almost the science is super cool and it has just such a serious note to it. That's one thing. And the other thing is also there's a difference between driving a Ferrari or writing a book about one. Those are very different things.
Yeah,
That's kind of how I would
that's it.
translate
I
it.
love that comparison. I might steal that for future purposes, because the
Yes.
I thought that long ago. I thought, well, have these plants taught me something, or like basically what is the teaching? And of course, then it's my visual way of verbalizing and thinking is like I'm externalizing something and I'm learning. It's just that they were the catalysts making these insights possible, and therefore, like by I'm understanding the scientific protocols of how trials are conducted and all that. This is absolutely important, but you're potentially losing some real gems by not having a certain openness and a little bit of anarchy around it as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
A bit of
Yeah.
anarchy. I like that. That could be a good title for the
Yes.
episode, maybe. A bit of anarchy. But yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
that. I feel like
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
no,
it's
please, yeah,
because
continue.
the structure is very important, but it's only I think if you allow the wisdom of the person, and I do trust that, of course, that the wisdom of the person in combination with the psilocybin or ayahuasca or whatever it might be, then to not be so outcome specific, like we said in the beginning.
Yeah. So yeah, dancing a
Yeah,
bit with the molecules and not
exactly.
only
A bit of
yeah,
head banging.
yeah. Yes. Yeah, because did you used to be into
Still
metal
am.
or something
Still
like
am.
that? Is that no? Still am. I love you like Tool, right? Or is that something
I
you
do
don't know?
prefer
Okay,
Perfect
yes.
Circle, but yeah, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. The side project of
yes, exactly.
Maynard.
Yeah, that will not go away. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's also to maybe why I didn't want to be with my own work. I didn't want to be so denominational, because who am I to kind of put an idea in people's heads of what this is. I think it's the joy of discovering what it means to you should still be left to the person in a way. And of course, people ask me, what do I think and how do I feel? And I can share some of it, but I do try to not speak in absolutes when it comes to these things. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. Thank you. I feel kind of complete. I'm curious if there's anything that you'd like to talk about or mention, or any events that are upcoming, or
Events that are
other
upcoming?
stuff.
No, my upcoming event is fully booked. That is wonderful. I think you already pointed
Yeah,
to our
good.
website.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we covered a good amount of ground. Yeah. No.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you
Yeah,
very much,
cool.
Susanna. Why do I call you Suzanne? But super lovely to have you, and I'll just
The
give you the last
last
word.
word. Oh my God. I think what I really appreciated about this conversation was that, yeah, like I said, when I came into my office to sit down for this, I remembered how we met, and when that image came into my head, and then I sort of rewound of who was I 10 years ago, and like seriously, the unbelievable learning, the fun I've had, the tears I've cried. It's such a rich time these last 10 years in terms of my own inner growth, that to be sitting here with you is like a real, oh, we both come such a long way. It's insane. No, it's really, we can give ourselves a big pat on the back as well. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Mm,
So
yeah. So that's a perfect circle
exactly.
of a decade.
Uh,
Yeah. Thank you very much, Susanna. And I see
yes,
you
I
soon,
hope so too.
hopefully.
Yes. Please let's find time. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.